Did Anthony come to do their crew?
Yeah. You want to really know the truth, what my real opinion is?
Yes.
I think he's wonderful.
Do your thing that you do best.
Oh!
You're not going to
Okay.
kill me. Don't touch me again. Give me my money. I will do whatever I want. You don't.
I will explain the gossip. Never miss this video. Please subscribe to the channel. The second the words Candy Apples Dance Center flash across the screen, every Dance Moms fan knows what's coming. Mayhem, mischief, and maximum drama. And in this flashback compilation, we're going all the way back to the beginning of the most chaotic rivalry in Dance Moms history. Cathy Nesbitt-Stein and her band of buttoned-up boys, rotating ringers, and shady dance moms were Abby's worst nightmare and our favorite troublemakers. So buckle up, because in part 1 of this epic saga, we're revisiting the early candy apple invasions, Cathy's undercover tactics, and the infamous moments that made ADC versus ALDC the greatest dance war reality TV has ever seen. Let's set the scene. Cathy started out as a seemingly harmless dance mom on the ALDC team, enrolling her daughter Vivienne in Abby's studio back in Season 1. But it didn't take long before Cathy realized she didn't want her daughter being trained under Abby's intense, often brutal methods. Cathy bailed from the ALDC in dramatic fashion, and that's when the real chaos began. Cathy wasn't just leaving. She was plotting a comeback, one that would involve forming a rival team to take down Abby at every turn. Thus, the Candy Apples 2.0 was born. Gone were the sweet, local kids. Cathy started recruiting from all. If you thought the Candy Apples were just a fun little side plot, think again. As the seasons rolled on, the Cathy versus Abby feud took a dark turn. What started as playful sabotage quickly spiraled into full-on personal warfare. Cathy wasn't just mocking Abby's choreography anymore. She was attacking her as a coach, a businesswoman, and a person. Cathy became obsessed with proving that the ALDC wasn't as strong as it seemed. And she didn't care how low she had to go to get under Abby's skin. Whether she was imitating Abby's pyramid system or mocking her weight, Cathy's jabs got nastier, and so did Abby's reactions. Their backstage screaming matches were so intense that producers had to intervene on more than one occasion. This wasn't just for show. It was real rage. One of Cathy's boldest moves? Trying to poach Kendall from the ALDC. In Season 2, Kendall's mom Jill was still new to the dance mom scene and eager for her daughter to rise through the ranks. So when Abby benched Kendall or placed her at the bottom of the pyramid again, Jill snapped. And Cathy saw her opening. Cathy swooped in like a villain in a soap opera, offering Kendall a spot on the Candy Apples. She promised more opportunities, solos, and most importantly, a team that would value her. Jill, frustrated and flustered, actually took the bait. For a short time, Kendall became a candy apple. Abby was furious. The team was shocked. And Jill? She quickly realized the grass wasn't greener in Cathy's candy-coated world. Let's just say, Kendall didn't last long on Team Cathy. Jill came crawling back and Abby, despite her usual tough exterior, let Kendall return. But that betrayal never left Abby's mind. And it added fuel to her already blazing hatred for Cathy. One of the weirdest things about the Candy Apples? It was less of a studio and more of a revolving door. Dancers came and went constantly. Cathy rarely had a core team. She would fly in ringers, elite dancers from other states, and present them as full-time CADC members just for 1 or 2 competitions. It drove Abby nuts. She saw it as cheating, stacking the team with hand-picked dancers who didn't actually train at Cathy's studio. But Cathy didn't care. She knew her strategy worked, especially when the judges focused on technique and presentation over loyalty or training time. Some of the most memorable ringers? Gavin Morales, a powerhouse dancer from California who dominated the stage and gave the ALDC boys a run for their money. Eerie dancers. Cathy loved bringing in talent from other parts of Ohio and Pennsylvania, just to twist the knife. Lucas Triana, from Raising Asia, a major flex that made Cathy look like she had real recruiting power. It got to the point where fans joked that Candy Apples didn't actually have an official team, just a new lineup every week. But no matter how random it seemed, Cathy's strategy kept working. If there's one Candy Apple stunt that fans still talk about, it's the impersonation dance. In one of the most unhinged routines to ever hit the Dance Moms universe, Cathy choreographed a group number that mocked the ALDC dancers by name. Each candy apple portrayed one of Abby's girls, complete with wigs, costumes, and exaggerated caricatures of their dance styles. Yes, it happened. Cathy had her dancers impersonate Maddie, Chloe, Mia, Brooke, and Paige on stage for the judges in full costume. The performance was petty, messy, and absolutely iconic. Abby's reaction? Nuclear. She called it disrespectful, low, and pathetic. But deep down, you could tell it rattled her. Cathy had taken the rivalry to a whole new level, one that blurred the lines between dance competition and personal attack. And Cathy? She loved it. The Candy Apple moms might not be as famous as the ALDC crew, but trust, they knew how to stir the pot. Jeanette Coda, Ava's mom, who constantly bragged about her daughter's ballet lines and wasn't afraid to go toe-to-toe with Abby or any of the other moms. Yolanda, yes, that Yolanda, who would later bring her chaos to the ALDC as Eliana's mom. Her roots? Candy apples. Tammy Kravchuk, T and Tessa's mom, who was involved in some of the earliest candy apple showdowns and never hesitated to throw shade at Abby's teaching style. The CADC moms loved to claim moral superiority, always telling Abby that she was too harsh or not setting a good example. But the second they got a camera on them, the claws came out. These moms fought dirty, and Cathy encouraged it. In her eyes, the messier the better, because drama meant screen time, and screen time meant power. Abby prided herself on one thing above all else: winning. So every time the Candy Apples beat the ALDC, it was like salt in the wound. There were several jaw-dropping competitions where Cathy's team outranked Abby's. Sometimes it was a solo that beat Maddie. Other times, it was a group number that edged out the ALDC by a fraction of a point. One of the most infamous? When Cathy's team performed a contemporary piece and beat Abby's down the rabbit hole routine. Abby was shaking. She accused the judges of being biased, the competition of being rigged, and Cathy of buying her way to the top. Whether or not any of that was true didn't matter. The damage was done. Abby had lost to the Candy Apples, and Cathy made sure everyone knew it. Nothing says dance mom's chaos like middle school awkwardness wrapped in competition-fueled tension. Enter Maddie and Gino. Gino, one of Cathy's strongest male dancers, was paired up with Maddie in a duet that forced the two competitors into an intense, romantic-themed number. Abby hated the idea, mostly because Gino was a candy apple, and she didn't want Maddie anywhere near Cathy's dancers. But what really sent Abby spiraling? Gino kissed Maddie on the cheek during rehearsal. It was probably just stage direction. But to Abby, it was an invasion. She stormed out, ranted to the moms, and tried to pull Maddie from the number. Meanwhile, Cathy cackled from the sidelines, watching Abby implode over a preteen peck. And guess what? The duet was amazing. It showed a different side of Maddie and pushed her emotionally. Abby couldn't deny it, even if she wanted to burn the footage. Let's be real, Cathy has delivered some of the most savage one-liners in Dance Mom's history. Some fan favorites. That woman is nuts. NUTZ nuts. You can't polish a turd, Abby. You're not a dance teacher. You're a monster in lipstick. But one line lives rent-free in every fan's head. I don't care if you win. I care if she loses. That one sentence defined Cathy's whole mission. She wasn't chasing trophies. She was chasing revenge. And that's what made her such a terrifyingly good villain. The truth is, Abby and Cathy were more alike than either of them wanted to admit. Both were fiercely competitive, obsessed with control, and totally theatrical. Both would do anything for their dancers, but also would turn on them in a heartbeat. And both built their reputations off of being unapologetically bold, loud, and combative. Cathy may have been the antagonist, but let's be honest, Abby needed her. Without Cathy, there would have been no tension, no stakes, no battle. The Candy Apples gave Dance Moms its flavor, its bite, its drama. Just when Abby thought she was free of Candy Apple chaos, Cathy Nesbitt Stein rose from the ashes of her earlier defeats like a red apple-colored phoenix, and this time, she had a new secret weapon, boys. Lots of them. Gone were the days of Vivienne being her only card to play. Cathy came back in Season 4 with a full-blown boy team, and the ALDC didn't see it coming. Abby was already on edge. The team was shifting, Christy and Kelly had just stormed out mid-season, and Abby was building her so-called select team to pressure the remaining original moms. So when Cathy suddenly reappeared at competitions, smug, smirking, and holding hands with sleek, polished dancers, it sent the ALDC into a tailspin. Cathy's plan was crystal clear. She was done losing. No more wannabe candy apple girls. It was time to recruit male contemporary prodigies with jaw-dropping technique, abs of steel, and choreography that screamed, "We're here to beat Abby." Enter Jalen, Gavin, and James, Cathy's MVPs. They came equipped with a level of sophistication and athleticism that felt totally different from the ALDC's usual lyrical solos. Cathy had them performing powerful contemporary pieces with edgy costumes, dramatic music, and yes, shirtless moments that had everyone talking. She wasn't just trying to win trophies, she was after headlines. At one memorable competition, Abby and Cathy squared off over a group number. Abby's girls performed a haunting lyrical about heartbreak and loss, while Cathy's team performed a pulsing, high-energy piece to Skrillex. The Candy Apples outscored the ALDC, and Cathy did not take the win humbly. "I guess technique beats tricks." Cathy cackled backstage, waving her trophy like a baton. Jill nearly lost it. "You brought in ringers. These boys don't even go to your studio." Cathy's smirk widened. "Well, Jill, I go out and find talent, unlike some people who just sit and scream while their daughters cry in pyramid." You knew Cathy couldn't resist targeting Maddie Ziegler directly. And in Season 4, she finally found someone she believed could beat her, Lucas Triana from Abby's Ultimate Dance Competition, now dancing for the Candy Apples. Cathy cast Lucas in a slick solo titled "I'm Macho, You're Not," complete with a suit jacket, sunglasses, and over-the-top charisma. It was basically a personalized taunt aimed at Abby's prized lyrical darling. Lucas used confidence on stage, and while Maddie delivered a technically perfect emotional solo, the judges gave the edge to Lucas. Backstage, Abby was livid. "That wasn't dancing," she sneered. "It was a gimmick." But Cathy saw it as a victory lap. "Guess America's sweetheart isn't always the winner, huh?" She laughed, taking a celebratory selfie with Lucas and the trophy. Melissa had steam coming out of her ears. "This isn't fair. Cathy is clearly manipulating the judges." Cue Abby storming out of the venue muttering, "Fix competition," under her breath, while Cathy strut out holding court like she just won Dancing with the Stars. Yes, that Vivi. The queen of blank stares, awkward jazz hands, and sour apple glares. In an act of pure trolling, Cathy brought her daughter back to compete in a group routine, despite the fact that Vivi still looked like she'd rather be at a donut shop. The dance? A campy, chaotic piece called "The Return of the Candy Apple Queen." Complete with a glittery apple throne, red wigs, and confetti cannons, it was less of a dance and more of a performance art roast of Abby. Cathy even threw in a moment where Vivi sat on a throne while other dancers worshipped her. Abby was not amused. "Is this a dance competition or a circus?" she snapped. But Cathy couldn't have cared less. She was back on her nonsense, and the fans lived for it. Memes of Vivi's bored expression during the number flooded Twitter, and Vivi's comeback era became an instant inside joke in the fandom. It started when Cathy accused Nia of being just a prop in Abby's group numbers. "She's only there to check a diversity box," Cathy said smugly, in full view of the cameras and Nia's mom. Holly was done. She walked over to Cathy's area and calmly but firmly unleashed a verbal takedown. "You don't know my daughter, and you certainly don't know the work she puts in. Keep her name out of your mouth." Cathy scoffed. "I'm just saying what everyone's thinking." "Oh, trust me," Holly said. "You've never had an original thought in your life." Mic dropped. Even Abby looked stunned. Cathy, momentarily silenced, tried to laugh it off, but the moms gave Holly a standing ovation. Cathy didn't just play the competition game, she played mind games. In one episode, she deliberately spread a rumor that Abby was copying her choreography. She whispered it to rival studios, stirred it up with the judges, and even tried to plant the idea with producers. "Abby has no originality left," Cathy sniped. "She sees what I do and panics. It's a pattern." Abby predictably exploded. "She doesn't even choreograph her own routines." But Cathy didn't need to prove it. She knew all she had to do was plant the seed. Every time Abby's group performed something remotely dramatic or edgy, Cathy could roll her eyes and say, "Looks familiar, huh?" It was a classic Cathy move, turning gossip into strategy and letting Abby self-destruct trying to defend herself. In perhaps one of the weirdest moments of Candy Apple chaos, Cathy entered a group number called Bathroom Beauties, a contemporary routine set entirely in a mock public restroom, with plungers and sinks and a toilet paper costume reveal. It was bold, it was confusing, and it had the entire auditorium buzzing. "Is this performance art or sanitation awareness?" one of the ALDC moms whispered. Abby was horrified. She has dancers acting like they're in a gas station bathroom. Is this what dance has become? But to Cathy, it was genius. "At least I'm not doing the same sad lyrical stories over and over again," she shrugged. "This is commentary,